We are now recording.
We certainly are.
Yes, yes. 2 nights in a row. Are you excited? Are you, interested in my hints from last night, which were actor, California, and drowning?
I am. It really narrowed. Actually, it kind of did with the drowning part,
Oh,
but
really? I'll
I
be
didn't.
interested. I'll be interested to see if you know once I
Yeah, me
start.
too.
Yeah.
I have a couple of guesses, but I don't think I know.
Okay. All right. Well, I survived Hurricane Milton and I did not drown, so that's good.
Oh yeah, the storm passed.
The
Is it
storm
past
did
past?
pass.
Is it still
It
happening?
it's past, and you know what was weird is, like, it didn't really do much here in Miami. It was just, like, super windy and stuff like that, but there were, like, 129 recorded tornadoes in the state of Florida last night.
That's
And not
crazy.
all of them touched down, obviously, but apparently Miami-Dade County did have some tornado warnings and stuff like that, which I was like, I never got any notification on my phone. Like, I remember being in Arkansas, and if a tornado warning happened, like, everything was like, "Rah, rah,"
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So if there were, it must not have been anywhere near like Miami Beach or something like that. But I think that the northern part of Florida got hit pretty hard,
yeah,
kind of where it was supposed to hit. But anyway,
like at the
I
base of the
will,
shaft.
yes, yes. The tip was just fine. Just the tip. So I'll go ahead and introduce us. Welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful, all in our unmentionables. That's right. We've slipped into something more comfortable. Hope you are doing the same, listener. Welcome. My name is Amanda Kamada.
And I am Blake Roberts, and this is a glass of wine.
And
Amanda,
this
what
is,
do
I'm having a White Claw in honor of the hurricane.
you? Lovely.
So I already gave my hints. Are you wearing anything specific for this, or are you drinking a California wine this evening?
I am drinking a Chilean wine. It was the only wine I had in the house.
Okay.
But I am wearing turquoise briefs, the color of the ocean.
I'm kind of wearing a turquoise myself, and I'm glad that you went a little more ocean with this because this is an ocean drowning. My sources today, before I get started, are Wikipedia, Vanity Fair, Suzanne Finstead book Natasha, the definitive book biography of Natalie Wood,
Okay.
and Little Sister, my investigation into the mysterious death of Natalie Wood. So today we are going to be talking about the mysterious death of Natalie Wood.
Nice.
Is that anything close to what you had in mind?
It literally popped into my head a moment ago when we were talking about it. Because before
Mhm.
that, for some reason, I don't know why my mind went there first. Because there was that actor from the TV show Glee
Mhm.
that drowned, I think with her child.
Yes, yes, yeah,
But I think that was in like Nevada or something.
yes, yeah, it happened somewhere in the desert. She drowned, but she was able to get her kid out or something. That I can't remember what her name was, but that was a horrible story.
Can't recall.
Yeah. I never watched Glee, though, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
I watched it from like the very beginning. It was a
Mhm.
Ryan Murphy, like an early Ryan Murphy thing.
Right, right. Well, today we are going to talk about screen legend Natalie Wood. In 1981, she went missing from the yacht she shared with her husband, Robert Wagner, only to be found approximately 6 hours later, floating face down in the Pacific Ocean. In 2000, her tragedy was revisited by Vanity Fair, and there has been decades of speculation about whether her drowning was an actual accident. So today we'll talk about a little bit about the investigation into her death, and then some other things actually that happened to her that I honestly wasn't aware of that, along with her drowning, are even more disturbing, I would say. But just a little bit about Natalie Wood. She was born July 20th, 1938. She was an American actor who began her career in film as a child and had many successful roles during her adolescence and adulthood. So she was actually somebody that started acting at age 4. And by the time she was 8, she was giving a co-starring role in the movie Miracle on 34th Street. Have you ever seen Miracle on 34th Street?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So she was the young girl who was the daughter in that movie who didn't believe in Santa Claus and who basically lived at Macy's growing up. And she was that little precocious kid. And I'm kind of dedicating this a little bit to my youngest sister, Megan, because whenever she was a kid, she literally watched Miracle on 34th Street when she was like a young child every day, not even during the holiday season. So she was a huge fan of that movie. But not only did she do Miracle on 34th Street, obviously, as a teenager, actually, she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for her performance in Rebel Without a Cause. Followed by a role in John Ford's The Searchers. She starred in musical films West Side Story and Gypsy, and received nominations for Academy Award for Best Actress for her performances in Splendor in the Grass and Love with the Proper Stranger. So she was actually a very well decorated actor, but her seemingly perfect life was not without dicey moments. So just a warning, this next story is pretty triggering and has a lot of disturbing information. So I mentioned before there was a 2001 biography that was done by Suzanne Finstad, and there was actually a rape allegation in there, and it alleged that she was raped by a powerful actor when she was 16. But in the book, she did not name her assailant, although there were a couple of her close friends, actors Scott Marlowe and Dennis Hopper. And in the book, it said, quote, "Though her 5 closest friends' memories of some of the details or timing differ after 45 years, the essence of what recalls Natalie confiding to them is the same. That the same married film star lured or tricked Natalie, raped her so brutally she was physically injured and she was too frightened or intimidated to report it to the police. Natalie hated her former screen idol afterward, shuddering if she ever heard his name. She would keep the horrible secret and behave as if nothing happened whenever their paths intersected in Hollywood because she was schooled by her mother in the politics to cross a powerful movie star." Can you imagine being 16 years old? I actually cried when I was writing this today because I was thinking of her being 16 years old, being lured into it apparently was the Chateau Marmont where this happened.
I had drinks there recently.
Oh, did you really? I
Mhm.
love that. I love that place.
Yeah.
Has a rich history of both good and bad things
Yeah, it's
happening there.
haunted. So she was lured in.
By a very powerful and famous actor. And basically, it came out in the 2021 memoir, the year after the death of Kirk Douglas. Her sister Lana published the memoir, Little Sister, My Investigation into the Mysterious Death of Natalie Wood, and identified him as her alleged assailant.
Whoa.
Yeah, I did not know this.
No.
No. So apparently her sister says it was Kirk Douglas who did it, which is disgusting on so many levels because he was such a revered actor,
Yeah.
know, and I can see why she being 16 years old. I don't know the age difference between the 2 of them at the time. My guess is that he was probably older than her because he was very old when he passed away. I think he was over 100 years old. If she were born in 1938.
If she were born in 1938, Kirk Douglas was born in 1916.
Okay.
So he would have been 32. Wait, no. He would have been I
He
can't
would
do
have
math.
been well in he would
Well,
have been well into his 30s at, like and double her age
maybe
if this.
close to 40.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
So,
doing math right now.
although no one would ever say it other than her sister after his death, she actually named him as the person who was her alleged assailant.
Well, if that's true, shame on him. That's
Yeah,
horrible.
horrible. To the point that it actually said that she was raped over the course of about 4 hours whenever it happened to her. That's a really long time to
Yeah.
be assaulted, and
I
I don't
mean,
know. 4 minutes or 40
I was
seconds is too long.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I just, feel for I personally haven't experienced sexual assault. I did know one person. I know one person who I personally know who has, and I know how traumatic it was for them.
Mhm.
And it was when I was in college. And, it was one of those things where she told me about it, but didn't tell anybody else about it, sort of thing, didn't go to the authorities because she was scared and that sort of thing. So I can only imagine how traumatic this must have been for her during her life, given that she was in that industry for so very long before she passed away. And this only happened when she was 16 years old. Yeah.
That's rough. And it wasn't really even until the 80s when rape really started to be like,
People talking about it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But she took a break from acting. A lot of her, earlier successes, when she was an adult were in the 60s, but she took a break from acting in the 70s and had two daughters, one with her twice husband, Robert Wagner. I didn't realize that they had actually been married twice,
I didn't
but
either.
yeah, her two marriages to actor Robert Wagner were highly publicized. They were first married on December 28th, 1957, in Scottsdale, Arizona, when Wood was only 19. But by 1961, they had announced their separation in a joint press release and divorced 10 months later. So that was sort of her starter marriage. But she also dated Warren Beatty, Michael Caine. Who
Who
didn't
didn't
date
date
Warren
Warren Beatty?
Beatty, by the way? Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Warren Beatty, Michael Caine, and David Niven Jr. She also had a broken engagement once to a Venezuelan shoe manufacturer in 1965. She did marry British producer Richard Gregson after dating for nearly 3 years, and they had a daughter, Natasha. But after a short lived romance with the future governor of California, Jerry Brown, which is really
Really?
interesting.
Jerry
Yeah.
Brown?
Yeah.
Interesting.
She resumed her relationship with Wagner at the end of January 1972, and they remarried aboard a boat called the Ramblin' Rose off of Paradise Cove in Malibu, and their daughter was born in 1974. So kind of interesting that she got married to him on a boat and then met her demise on a boat. And basically what happened with that, this is, pretty short. On November 29th, 1981, at the age of 43, she drowned in the Pacific Ocean near Santa Catalina Island during a break from her production of her would-be comeback film Brainstorm. Now, what's interesting is she was with her husband, Robert Wagner, and her co-star in Brainstorm, who was Christopher Walken. And the events surrounding her death have been a little bit up in the air because it was said that evening, and there have been conflicting witness statements that, particularly from the captain of the ship, that she and Wagner had a major argument that evening while they were all intoxicated because she had apparently been flirting, or he thought she had been flirting with Christopher Walken. And whenever she fell into the water, he said that Robert Wagner just basically said, just leave her, she can get out on her own or whatever. And what ended up happening is that she was drowning. So basically, her cause of death was listed as drowning and other undetermined factors in 2012. So it's an like initially it was listed as drowning, but in 2012 the coroner's office like reopened the case and relisted her cause of death as drowning and undetermined factors. But then in 2018, Wagner was named as a person of interest still in the ongoing investigation to her death. And he's never been charged with her murder. He was never charged with her murder, and he is still alive from what I can tell. He's 94 years old. He currently is, still living. He's 94 years old. Doesn't really speak much about the subject, but it's always been thought that he had something to do with her death, that maybe he pushed her overboard, but in any case, nobody offered any assistance to her when she fell overboard. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Slaughter.
Yeah.
I feel like it was my opinion, my theory.
Mm.
And no one should believe me because I'm just making it up as I go. But I've always sort of thought that it was probably, how you get when you're drinking and you're in a relationship that's maybe a little volatile and things progress. I think probably they got into a fight and he shoved her. She went over and that was it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like a premeditated thing.
Yeah.
But I think it probably was like an emotional, like angry. That was it. No,
I
that's
agree.
all it takes. That's what I think. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So, that is kind of a short story. She definitely had many film roles and all that kind of stuff that we could talk about. But the mystery surrounding her death has been like going on for decades. And, he's been named a person of interest. So I want to know what Christopher Walken's side is of all of this, because it
I do
seems
too.
that he has never like really spoken out, and he's such a popular and, like really prominent actor. I'm surprised that he's really never gone on the record to give his side of the story as to what happened that actual evening. Like, was he asleep by the time this happened? Did he know that these two were fighting? Did he help cover it up? It's
Yeah.
kind
Did
of
they
one
have a
of the.
thing on the side?
Did they have a thing on the side? Because she was known to have had a few extramarital affairs, from what I could tell, which, it's Hollywood. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
Everybody does that anyway, but, but even more so in Hollywood. So, like, what really happened that night to cause that, to go so far sideways, that she would have, and why didn't anybody go in and help her? And the fact that she was found 6 hours later so close to where they actually were, it makes you wonder if she wasn't like dumped a little bit later into the water, if maybe something happened to her on the boat, because it said that she wasn't found that far. And usually the ocean would take you pretty far in 6 hours, I
Yeah.
would think. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never realized that her name, of course, this is such a common thing, probably still, but her name was given to her by the studios. So her birth name was Natalie Zacharenko or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she was given that name. Yeah, Robert Wagner.
I remember him in that show, that 80s
Heart,
show, Heart to
Heart
Heart.
to Heart. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I remember him
With
from.
Stephanie Powers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a kid, I always thought that Stephanie Powers was Natalie Wood. Because I knew I knew just bits and pieces of the story. And
Mhm.
so in my head, when I would hear about, the death of Natalie Wood, I always pictured Stephanie
Stephanie
Powers.
Powers.
Yeah.
Well, they did have a bit of a familiar look to them both, being brunette and stuff like that. I always felt like Natalie Wood was just so attractive and,
Mm-hmm.
such a, I don't know, elegant actor. She just kind of carried herself very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was lovely. I forgot all the things she was in, like Miracle and what was it?
Gypsy and
Side Story.
West Side Story and all those. Yeah, like it's she had a pretty amazing resume, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like she had Sex and the Single Girl, The Great Race, Inside Daisy Clover, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. I mean, like she did a lot in her like career, you know. But the whole thing with Kirk Douglas really threw me for a loop. I got to tell you.
Yeah, that was new information for me.
Hmm.
Like I knew about the story. I knew about Christopher Walken, but I had no idea about the earlier tragedies.
Yeah, yeah. And that was like the only one that I could find that was mentioned. You know, like most of the biography about her was about that evening and what happened to her. But I'm surprised that people don't talk more about the Kirk Douglas thing because for me, it's just as tragic, but on a different level, you know.
Oh yeah, because it's such a like spins your life into a whole different trajectory. Yeah, I mean that really can shape. Yeah,
The
that's
types of
horrible.
relationships that you're in, like perhaps the relationship that she was in with Robert Wagner was maybe abusive, to an extent. And, people didn't really realize it until that happened.
Hmm.
But just a tragedy all around and, horrible that she had to die so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, why don't you let us know where can I listen to us?
Well, you can watch this and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts at The Forbidden Pod. We would love for you to follow us on social media after you have rated, reviewed, and commented on all of our channels where you can listen and watch us, but do the same on our social channels, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at The Forbidden Pod, and visit our website, www.theforbiddenpod.com, and actually provide us any feedback, nudes, anything that you can to our email at hello@theforbiddenpod.com. And I actually have something to report on in the Talk of Shame. We had a write in to me personally on Facebook.
Oh,
So, yeah, from a fan. So I'm excited to talk to you about that on the next Talk of Shame. So if you guys want to listen to that and hear about that, then, someone who actually wrote in, then you will listen to the Talk of Shame.
well, Amanda, thank you for that sad, tragic, and entertaining story.
Yeah. Sorry it was so short, but it's kind of short and to the point, but
And sweet.
short and sweet for this evening.
You
Well,
are
thank you.
traveling tomorrow morning,
I
so
am traveling tomorrow, so I do have a lot going on. But listeners, as always, we thank
thank you.
you.